Right, interesting. Very
And he's been a pretty good U.S. champ before.
Yes, yeah, no stranger to the gold around the waist for sure. Very well said. Let's get into an interesting one here, guys. A hair versus hair match, I believe, with the Peach Mandy Rose taking on Sonya Deville. First and foremost, hope Sonya's doing well with everything going on, in this crazy, crazy 2020 world. Hope she's doing well. This is an interesting one, so I'll put it to you guys this way. I think, first and foremost, Sonya's been killing it in her promo. She's really just like elevated herself to the next level. I've been a fan of hers, going back to Tough Enough and then NXT. I like what she had going for her. So I think she's really been elevating herself. But the question really is here, now correct me if I'm wrong, the loser then gets their head shaved. It's not you get your head shaved to lose the match.
Yes.
It's the other way around. So
there's no clippers on a pole anywhere now.
Exactly. So who do you think is going to be bald or have their hair shaven off at the end of this match? We'll start with you, Miranda.
I absolutely believe it's going to be Sonya Deville, and I think it's only going to make her more of a badass. I have this sense of like G.I. Jane, Demi Moore vibes with her shaving off her head, like being a complete badass. So yes, she loses because I feel like this is as short as Mandy Rose's hair is going to get. So like this is it. This is as short as we're going to see it. I don't know exactly how the end of the match will go, whether it's shenanigans or a clean win. Who really knows? But I think that. We're going to see Sonya's, hair come off. But I don't think it's going to hurt her in any way. I think it's actually going to make her more intimidating. I think it may, add a sense of depth to her character even more. And maybe she goes on a tirade, and all the other feuds in the future revolve around breaking people's beauties and their appearance. Because that's what happened to her, and so I think that would benefit her more. And I truly see this match in any way, the way that it rolls out, this is only going to benefit Sonya Deville more. I think Mandy Rose is beautiful, she's talented, all these things, but this match is not about Mandy, it's about Sonya.
Yeah, wow, that's really good. I'm very interested in this one. That's very well said, Miranda. Bill, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Mandy's going to win this match. She cut one of her best promos on social media the other day about just like not just being a pretty face, not just getting by in her looks, and because of that stigma, she's had to work harder. I can't see her losing because of that, because she already had the embarrassment of getting her hair cut. I think it'll be Sonya losing it, but here's the thing. I think Sonya Deville, I think this is her year. I think by the end of this year, early next year, there's gold around her waist. There's money in Sonya Deville. I think that the first time I saw her, I said, there's money in her. I saw her at an NXT house show in Asbury Park. Not just because she's from New Jersey, where we're from. It's just she's really good. She's got the legit MMA background. And I think she's finally fully realized her character, especially over the last few months. And there is a lot of money in her. I mean, to me, if I was fantasy booking, if you wanted to legitimize those women's tag titles, her and Shayna Baszler, just call them a team called Death. Just call them Death because they're going to kill everybody. And then when you finally have them lose, that would be a huge deal. But that'll never happen. But it's just like, if it did, it'd be great. And I'll take my check in the mail. And it's, but I think Sonya is destined for a title. And she's going to be a big time member of the women's roster going forward for the foreseeable future. And she's going to get her head shaved, and it's just going to make her like Charlize Theron in Mad Max. It's just going to make her an ultimate badass. I could even see her doing like the black paint across her face and everything like that. Like she's going to, like, that'll change her character, and that'll be really awesome to see.
Very interesting. You guys,
I'll take those 2 points now, Rob. Thanks.
Yeah, dude, at least two. Really, really well said. I think that's very interesting, especially that Shayna Baszler, Sonya Deville team up, which makes so much sense.
So much sense it'll never happen.
You just see them. That would just be amazing. That's a great idea. Now, Matt, before I throw it to you, I'm going to be the odd man out here. I think like Sonya's time is now. Not to say like a win over Mandy Rose is going to take her to that next level or anything like that, but she's been red hot right now, in my mind, been red hot right now. So if I'm talking just wrestling right now, not the hair versus hair, I think Sonya takes it. Like Sonya gets the win here. So I'm going to go with that. I go for shock value of Mandy Rose getting her head shaved. This model who's been on the magazine covers, who, as Bill said, has been known for her looks, even going back to Tough Enough, although has really proved herself in the ring and back on Tough Enough for sure. So this is an interesting one. I don't think it's as easy as saying Sonya will be the one to shave her head, although I totally see those G.I. Jane comparisons and stuff like that. I like where you guys are going with it. In fact, I very much see it. I'm gonna go for the shock value. I'm gonna the Mandy Rose got her head shaved kind of thing. Like this is break the internet kind of stuff. This is quite frankly something that WWE needs right now is some of these I wouldn't say positive headlines, but storyline kind of headlines. Matt, are you with me or are you going with Sonya?
Well, let's put it this way. This is a match where whoever loses this match is going to be the winner overall, because they're the one who's going to get the attention from having their head shaved afterwards. They might be flipping a coin or drawing lots to see who gets it, because they probably both want to do it. Many moons ago, Perry Saturn lost to Raven and had to wear a dress on Nitro, and he kept wearing the dress. He completely owned that, and it turned into like a Marilyn Manson like leather skirt type gimmick, and it got him over. Fast forward, Molly Holly getting her head shaved. It was a good look. She was just that much more recognizable.
Kurt Angle.
Remember
the wig?
He had no choice.
Very true.
There's a reason I'm wearing a hat. I can talk about this. You okay?
I don't know what you're talking
about. And the question I have is this: right now, I'm going to go with Sonya only because I think she's going to pull it off a little bit better.
Right. Well, it's what you said, man, that really struck a chord with me here. Like you saying whoever loses this match really is the winner. And that's because my thought was like Sonya needs the win, but Sonya definitely is going to benefit from this. So now you're making me, I'm not going to switch my pick, Bill, because I know you're going to yell at me.
You always do.
But that's a fantastic point.
You get over, not by going over.
But I could see, but to defend your pick, like you could definitely see Sonya as the shitty heel holding it over Mandy, and then we get another match over it. Like she could even be carrying the hair in a bag or something like that, or throwing wigs at her, doing shitty heel things, and then they're trying to build both of them. I just think that Sonya, I just think it's all Sonya. She's gonna just be just a super badass because of it. Because you need another woman. Because right now it's Asuka, Bayley, and Sasha, and that's really it. So you need somebody else until Charlotte comes back and wins everything.
And I'll back you up a little bit, give you a little props on that, Rob. It's not like showing up with a pixie cut is going to drop Mandy Rose's Instagram numbers. So
you ain't wrong, man. All right. But correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we just have the WWE title match and the Universal title match. Is that all that's left? Am I missing something? But Bill, let me know if I'm off on this one. But anyway, regardless.
No, we didn't do the other women's match, the other women's title match. We didn't do Bayley and Asuka.
Oh wow, really?
We mentioned
I wasn't on that. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so that's what you guys were talking about earlier. Again, no cable, no internet for weeks. I've been moving. Forgive my I'm writing it down right now.
There's definitely going to be matches added to this show because, you don't even have AJ Styles on the show. There's a lot of people not on the show.
SummerSlam, for sure. So Bayley versus Asuka is for the SmackDown Women's Championship.
Yes.
All right, Bill, take it away.
I'm going to go with Bayley's going to retain. I think this is the first match that's going to happen, and this is going to go long. It's going to be awesome. And then we get the shorter Asuka-Sasha match, and Bayley ends up costing Sasha. But yeah, I think I think Bayley's going to win this one. She's just too good right now. It's like Hansel, so hot right now. It's like Bayley, so hot right now. You can't take it off of her right now. She's still hitting gears with this character, and I don't think you can take it off of her right now. So I'm going to say Bayley retains.
I think I haven't had time to really process this. I say the Sasha-Asuka match goes first, that with Asuka winning, then, a little bit more of a worn down Asuka takes the L to Bayley, so Bayley retains. I'll go that way. Matt?
Yeah, as much as, babyface Bailey was just such a natural thing that they managed to just drop in the toilet somehow, uh, and never reach its full potential. The heel Bailey, which you never would have thought you could see happening, just has taken off. She's just doing an amazing job at this, and I think you got to keep it on her right now.
So you're saying
I'm saying Bailey retains.
Asuka Bailey stands a chance. Miranda, your thoughts?
I think Bailey's going to retain with this, path. Hopefully, ultimately, Sasha versus Bailey. I agree with what everyone said as far as, Bailey's now the hot heel in this. And so for me, it makes a lot more sense if now they approach Sasha and Bailey as Bailey being the heel and Sasha being the face. And what better way to do that if, Bailey is the one that retains her belt and Sasha loses hers. And ultimately, they're fighting over the SmackDown Women's Championship. I feel like that's such a switch from what we know in their history, and a much more interesting story. So, and again, the way that Sasha won her belt compared to Bailey, Bailey is now the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion. I feel like they're still moving along with that because again, the SmackDown roster too doesn't have a lot going on with it. I would ultimately love to see maybe a stopgap in between with Bailey and Sonya Deville. But I ultimately think in the end, maybe when it comes to Survivor Series or even later this year, it's going to be Sasha and Bailey for the women's SmackDown Women's Championship, and Sasha's going to take it from her. So I don't think it's Asuka's to take. I think it's eventually Sasha's.
Wow. Miranda getting all the points today. Very well said.
Ding, ding, ding.
Racking them up right now. All right, well, let's move to the WWE title match with Drew versus Randy Orton. Interesting stuff going on here. I think. What you got some?
Oh no, I'm just waiting for the catchphrase.
Which one?
Bill's
my catchphrase. Fuck Randy Orton.
There it is. You just couldn't.
Ding.
There it is.
Can't wait for that to go out on Facebook Live. Sorry, Mom.
No. Go ahead, Bill. You can lead us in on this one. Go ahead, because he's your favorite.
I just fucking care about Randy Orton. I just don't. It's just like, I think okay, they've built this up pretty decently, but I feel like it's all incidental build up. Like, him punting Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels. Where does that build for Drew? Outside of Drew coming to save the day for these guys. It doesn't. All it does is build up fucking Randy. And we've been building up Randy Orton for 16 years, if not longer. You don't need to. He's not some guy who hasn't had a push his entire life. As JR would say, your goddamn push, brother. Like, okay, this isn't like Apollo Crews right now, who needed the push, and he needed the title. This is Randy Orton. We know who he is. You've shoved him down our throats for so long. We don't need all this. If they had taken the Randy Orton storyline and applied this to someone else, I think it would have worked really well. Because you wouldn't have seen it coming. And it would have gotten someone who needed to get over. I'm even going to say if you did this with Seth Rollins, it would have worked really well. Because we've seen Randy do this already, and what is this adding to Randy? Because when Randy did the Legend Killer thing, it took a young guy and made him into something big. You're just taking this guy who's something big and just, what are you, adding to his resume? You don't need to. Like, if this had been applied, like I said, like to Seth Rollins, I know he's got a big resume, but we've seen his difficulties getting over. If Drew had been the heel and done this, that would have been huge. If Bobby Lashley had done this, would have been huge. I'm being repetitive. I apologize. But, like, this match to me is like, reminds me of Keith Lee and Karrion Kross in this way. I know, it's like, why are you saying this? Because it's, how does one person winning, what do you do here? Like with Lee, it's like, it's too early to take the belt off him. With Kross, it's too early to have him lose. So what are you going to do? DQ? That sucks. What are you going to do with Drew McIntyre? It's still too early to take it off Drew McIntyre, in my opinion. He just won it. He won it in front of an empty arena. Like, it sucks. Like, and he's still coming off of years of not being used right. Randy Orton, he doesn't need the belt. And who's the next guy for either of them, by the way? Maybe you never saw it coming. I'll get to that later. But it's I think it's Drew McIntyre because Drew needs the win. Drew needs the legitimacy of beating Randy Orton. Like, I don't think Randy was supposed to face Drew McIntyre. I think it was supposed to be Edge. I mean, I pretty much know. We all know it was supposed to be Edge. This was okay, shit, let's scramble and do something different. Because Edge hurt himself because, you had to refilm a spot. Okay. My problem with some of these, cinematic matches, like, you blew out a year of this guy's career just to refilm one spot, which is dumb. Rant over. I think Drew McIntyre needs it. I think he's going to win, and I hope they have someone waiting in the wings for him. I think Randy goes to SmackDown, and I think he feuds with whoever's the champion over there. Because you can't just have Randy lose and have him not do anything, because he's still a draw for your company. Unless you have him take a vacation, which they've done before. So, we'll see.
Very interesting, Bill. I knew as soon as we said Randy Orton, we'd get a classic Bill.
I mean, I think I was nicer than I usually am.
So, well, I'll say this, man, and I think you're right about some things. I try to call right down the middle here with Orton, like, very accomplished, great career. Has done a lot. Bill, I know you could say differently, but
he's done a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
In my opinion, as I've said before on this podcast, Randy probably doesn't know my thoughts here. It's like, why do I not like Randy Orton? Because Randy Orton, in my opinion, has all the pedigree and all the skill in every aspect to be a Mount Rushmore pro wrestler. But because he seems bored and doesn't seem to put in the effort unless it's against someone big time, he's not a Mount Rushmore record. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. He's not an icon, which is what he should be. And when I see people wasting potential because, fuck it, I'm making my money, that annoys me. And that's why I don't like it. Because I'm just saying, like, you could have been Ric Flair. You could have been Shawn Michaels. But you decided not to be. That's my thing.
I got you, bro. Well, you bring up some real good points. I'm just waiting for you to go, he's only got one move. But
yeah, he has three. He has three moves, guys.
Oh, okay, three.
One of them's a stomp. You stole it from Ronnie Garvin. Thanks.
Tell us how you really feel, Bill. But I'll say this, man. You do bring up some valid points. The whole, like, regurgitating the Legend Killer thing. It's interesting. Like, didn't he already do this to Flair at some point years ago?
Probably.
It's just like, I don't get it. Like, I thought what was interesting, what they were doing with Edge was kind of cool. Like, he was kind of doing, like, the Legend Killer thing, but with, like, the next tier, like, chronologically, like, the next level. Like, it was the Christians, the Edges, and I'm like,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Right, I thought that made more sense. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool, like, where they're going with this. So, like, maybe it would be, like, MVP, Ray, like, kind of, again, like, that next class, kind of like that Ruthless Aggression era kind of superstars. Maybe Kurt Angle coming back and being a special, and him getting, So I thought that's where they were going with Orton. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, that makes a lot of sense. It brings back the Legend Killer in a new, revamped way. I think that would be really cool. So I thought that's where they were going. Obviously, injuries happen, but I thought that would be a great direction for him. Why it's Orton versus Drew, I think you're right about that, Bill. I don't think it was supposed to be Orton there, but I see this being another guy that Drew can beat. That being said, Orton is one of those guys that can win a title at any given time, just like a lot of those Shield guys. At any time, whatever match they're in, they can win a title. I wouldn't be surprised if Orton won here. Actually, I would be surprised, but he could win here. I think Drew, as I always say on this show, needs to have that moment, though, walking out with the belt in front of a live crowd. Obviously that's out of everyone's hands except, scientists and doctors and first responders who we, round of applause right now for everyone doing that. That's the most important thing. But, yeah, I think Drew retains here. If I had to put money down on it, I would say Drew retains. Miranda.
Yeah, I mean, this program didn't catch me too much by surprise. And Randy Orton, I mean, he does what he does best. He's being a dick, and that seems to be his element. And he's good at it. Like, I am still also a little confused as to why this version of Randy. I think with what you were talking about earlier about, him attacking some of these Ruthless Aggression era performers, a lot of them were tied to Edge, so it was a very personal battle. Here, it doesn't seem to have any connectivity between him and Drew. he's just beating up people, who are legends or really well known, which we don't need. Again, I think the more that he personally attacks people and attacks, their ego, all of those things, and they seem to be going that direction at one point in time. But it also didn't help Drew because he talked about, the challenges he had from getting fired to being back up here. But ultimately, too, he beat Brock Lesnar in a few minutes. And I feel like that win, maybe because of the fact that it wasn't in front of a live audience or an in-person audience, has just felt so undervalued for so long. Like, he took down one of the most unstoppable people in all of professional wrestling. And it just feels like it's being so swept under the rug. So I'm surprised they haven't utilized that more in this story, in his story. But it does seem like, they are building Monday Night Raw around Drew McIntyre. And out of all the people, especially on the Monday Night roster, it made sense that he had to go up against the biggest heel they have. So Randy Orton made a lot of sense. I believe Drew is going to retain. They still have a lot of building to go around him, though I don't know what's next. I mean, it does feel like they are blowing their load really quickly on getting to this really top character so soon. Even though he's had Bobby Lashley in between, Randy Orton is still one of the biggest stars in the entire roster. So who else is left after this? Maybe they keep on going for a little while as well, but I do truly feel like they're building around Drew, and they should. They absolutely should, bring up some new talent, bring up some new champions, and I feel like he's a great figurehead for Monday Night Raw.
Wow, Miranda is on fire today. Very well said, and that's a great point. I brought this up on the show before. He took out Brock Lesnar in 3 Claymores, and that was the match, right? At WrestleMania.
Pretty much, yeah.
Done deal. And right now he's gonna have longer matches with like you said, Miranda, that unstoppable force, Brock Lesnar. So that's very, very interesting. We've seen Drew become this very, very powerful face right now. So that's super interesting. Very well said. Matt, did I throw it to you on this one yet?
You're about to.
There you go.
All right, yeah, and that's the thing. When Drew put the claymore through the heart of the beast, he slayed the dragon. He became the king, and now he's got to hold it. And Seth Rollins, great. Bobby Lashley, greater than many people only watch WWE know. And Dolph Ziggler, criminally overlooked, but none of them are Randy Orton. Randy Orton is the next test for the king. He's that Black Knight, and he's very, very dangerous, just like Brock Lesnar. This is going to be, however they've implemented the build up to this. They've had some hits and misses along the way of this. This is what they use to cement Drew. He's, they made him. Now they have to tighten him up, shore him up, and this is what it's going to do.
It doesn't really hurt Orton in any way.
Yeah, Randy Orton can lose to anybody, and in the past 2 years, he lost views to AJ Styles, Kofi Kingston. He's going to lose this one.
Makes sense. Yeah, I
always keep Randy strong. Don't worry about Randy. He's fine. Randy's fine.
Be all right.
I hope Randy Orton does cameo for Bill's birthday. I'm just going to get him a Randy Orton happy birthday or something.
We're absolutely doing that.
If you didn't like me, you would do that. If you literally thought I was a terrible person, then you should buy that for me.
I won't do.
So I publicly shamed you on your own podcast, so you won't do it.
You wouldn't be the first person. I digress. Now, before we get into what may be the main event, Bray, The Fiend, taking on Braun Strowman, who shaved his head, I guess?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just kind of happened, I guess.
Bill brought up a great point. They keep using the tagline. The last time was horror show for Extreme Rules. Now they're doing these taglines. You didn't see it coming. Bill, you had some theories that you might want to get into. Man, tell us a little bit about what's going on in that brain of yours.
This is what keeps me from going crazy while working during the day. They didn't, the horror show was going to, when you think about that from Extreme Rules, that was the eye. That was the swamp boogie brawl or whatever it was called. That ridiculousness. Let's punch a gator in the face, and Alexa Bliss happens to be a Force ghost, and it's all weird. But so you didn't see it coming. So there's a lot of different angles you could think about this. Now, if we think about I'm just gonna give you everything I thought about while trying to pick up my daughter today. was, we're thinking like, could it be a surprise? Could it be Brock Lesnar? Is it that you're in an arena? So, okay, you didn't see that coming. We've seen Brock Lesnar though, a lot. He's been that surprise a lot. Could it be, as I've said every podcast I'm on with you, could it be Ronda Rousey? I don't think that's happening. Because what sense does it make? The one guy I thought that would be super interested, and I think we've all forgotten about him, is Roman Reigns. Now, having Roman come out at some point to challenge somebody could be interesting. Would a Roman Reigns-Drew McIntyre feud be good? We've seen them go before. That WrestleMania match was okay. But remember, Roman was just coming back from being on the shelf. A fresh Roman Reigns and a fresh Drew McIntyre would be great. Now, you're doing this, so I know you're thinking Undertaker, but I feel like we should not see The Undertaker for like a year. Because he's that boneyard match, chef's kiss. Let's put him in the shelf. The other thing you could be is we have Retribution. This whole fake angle that WWE is throwing out there, which is fairly stupid. And we saw a wobbly chainsaw cut down a ring rope. Some people have, reading the Twitter sphere, some people are like, wow, when talking about it on Raw, Samoa Joe seemed really okay with them. Could Samoa Joe or Shane McMahon come out as the leader of Retribution? Could we find out who Retribution is? Could they sabotage the main event so we don't, or a title match so we don't get a finish, which is very possible. We didn't see it coming because who thinks of a weird-ass angle WWE said isn't political but is totally political, made up of people we don't even know who they are, taking over the show? Quite possible. They've done it before with Nexus. And we still remember that as an awesome angle. And then the final one is that it's all Cody Rhodes. He's going to come out and he's leading to Retribution. I don't know. The last one I was like, I can't think of anything that it could possibly be. But I think it's a return or something to do with Retribution and or Raw Underground. The only other person I could think of, possibly, maybe, will be Daniel Cormier somehow being involved with Raw Underground. We didn't see it coming. Huge UFC star. It doesn't mean a lot to if you're not an MMA fan, but mainstream appeal, wants to go to WWE. Other than that, I don't know who they could have return. Goldberg's already done his 2 contracted appearances for the year. You don't give it this tagline if it doesn't mean something. Or Otis cashes in.
Otis cashes in, huh?
Who's like, he's barely been on TV since he's won, except to help Mandy. So it's like, why? What happens if the Fiend wins and Otis beats him?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how that would be, but no one saw that coming.
Yeah, they were very hush-hush about who got sick. What did they say, like 40 people and in-ring talents got sick. They were very hush, but you notice certain people weren't on TV for a couple of weeks. And I'm not saying he got sick or anything. And I'm just glad everyone's healthy, first and foremost. That's the most important thing. And that brings me back to that point, Earlier this week, I was thinking, first of all, I just had a feeling like, this is about the time like Brock Lesnar shows up. Like I was thinking that, and then you brought that to my attention yesterday, I think, Bill. But then I started thinking, maybe Roman Reigns, like just that we'd just be so happy to see him and all that would be great. But just like he looked real, like when Renee got sick and all that, or I shouldn't say got COVID. I thought Roman Reigns looked really smart. You know what I mean? And WWE looked really not so great. So I think Roman obviously had twins on the way now, or
no, he has. He's now got his second set of twin boys.
Right, so he's doing right.
And he has elderly family living with him.
Dude, it just makes so much sense. So for those reasons, I don't see him coming back. Especially when I'm not trying to bash anyone here, but as far as employees' health, they did drop the ball on that one. And now we see Renee leaving, and I'm just like, yep. And no disrespect there, but and she's gonna do great wherever she lands. AEW. But
I'm like, ESPN, Fox, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, that's great. Oh, for sure, yeah, it'll be great. But I just have a feeling like Brock Lesnar might pop in if there is any sort of return. I don't see it being Roman. If it is, I'll be very, very happy to see him. But like we always say here, everyone's safety is first and foremost for sure. And if you guys have any theories, please throw them in along the way. We'll just jump to this last match and take it home here, though. But if you guys have any theories, please throw them in. And that would be, I think this one actually is for the Universal title.
Yeah.
And it's going to be The Fiend. It's not going to be Sweater Bray Wyatt or the Swamp Bray Wyatt. It's going to be The Fiend taking on Braun Strowman, which we knew this was going to be a series of matches. Like, we knew it from the get-go.
Yeah.
You just knew. I got nothing here. Matt, your thoughts on this one?
I'm looking at Braun retaining. I don't know why right now, but I'm going to go with that. Again, I think because the Fiend loses less with a loss because he's a character, he's a property, so he can take the L on this one. Bill's his conspiracy theories there. I'm totally
welcome to my brain.
I'm still like, could it be Roman? Because Roman basically made Braun Strowman in their feud, and he's done well with Bray before. And like I said, I thought maybe they were too similar when they hit in their personas when he had the back and forth with Drew before. But yeah, both of them at 100%. I mean that's an all around win. And the other names, with the exception of Cody, all work too.
I know.
So that's if everything goes just vanilla, it's either or. I'm just going with Bray because I think they're
Braun.
Sorry, they're going with Braun.
Okay.
They're just sticking with that.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick here. Like we always say on the show, like the Fiend was so hot and he cooled off, and Bill had a great point about talking about the Thunderdome and how you would use that for the Fiend. But please don't give me those red lights the whole time. Give him,
My question is if all the LCD screens with the people watching at home, if they bring out their phones to be the fireflies.
That's brilliant. Yeah, give me something like that. Just make that connection with the audience. Little things like that. It's all about the details. Very well said. The Fiend, but we always talk about on the show how he's been so hot and cold. And I saw Abaddon, and I'm like, the Fiend who? Like, and again, no disrespect to Bray Wyatt. It's just because they've cooled him off so much, and that confusing Hell in the Cell ending, and he just red hot, man, and it's just super confusing. It's interesting him bringing out all these different personas, and the man's a creative genius. He owns the character. It might be some bad booking. I don't know what it is. It's become very confusing, very hot and cold. For that reason, the Fiend does need a big win or a big something. But I think Braun retains here. And again, you can tell I'm not confident in that pick. Miranda, what do you have for me on this one? You've been knocking out.
Well, so the one area I am worried about is that this is advertised as a wrestling match. I feel like the one individual who's benefited the most from everything that's happened with all of the changes WWE has been making, especially cinematic matches, is Bray Wyatt. Because Hell in a Cell, red light match, whatever it is, like that character, the Fiend itself doesn't seem to translate well in a wrestling ring. But when he's in a cinematic match, it's magic. It's something. We get that mystery, that aura, that fear, whatever it is that he projects. We truly are able to get that in a cinematic match more than in a regular match. So that's where my big concern is. And I think that's also contributed to his hot and cold. What he did at WrestleMania with the Firefly Funhouse match. Even the Swamp match was, kind of, questionable, but it was a big, like anyone who's a big horror movie fan caught a lot of the vibes from that too, for me, the Fiend does not translate well in a ring. I don't want to see the Fiend in a ring, really. So for me, I'm a little nervous about this match, though. But looking at the future of SmackDown, I do feel like Braun will likely retain. As much as it was very cool to see Bray Wyatt with the belt, I'm sorry, yes, I forget which belt's on which show sometimes.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Universal. Anyway, so I do feel like just building Drew around in Raw. I think that's probably what they're doing with Braun in some sense. but ultimately the Fiend doesn't need the belt. I've seen that. I think it's great when he has it, but he doesn't necessarily need it. And I think this is where we do see Braun be very successful. Is that he's played in Bray's world long enough. Now the Fiend goes to where Braun is the most successful in the ring. And that's where we probably see that. Again, though, it does seem like the Fiend as a character is so eclectic. You never know what we're going to see from him. So I don't think it would even hurt him that much because we're going to come and see him around with, something new and something scary eventually. But I don't think he does well in a wrestling ring.
That's a very great point. And like he can perform, but I get what you're saying. Like the persona, like he is benefiting from that cinematic point of view. That's actually a great way to look at it, Miranda. Really stellar debut. Bill, take us home.
So, I think the Fiend is going to win because what was the biggest problem we had that Bray Wyatt had? He could never win the big one, and then when he didn't win the big one, he lost all of them, and he just became the guy that would run up and then run back down. And he lost the threat of what he was. Like when I saw him in NXT for the first time, he was such this edgy, dangerous type of character with his cult behind him, and he quickly lost that. And that's why it took so long for him to be away with being the Fiend. And I thought that, like we talked about, the Fiend was one of the coolest things WWE created. I know he created it, but like the WWE, like a character, like he was so cool and so different and so unique. And they totally kneecapped him in that Hell in a Cell match. But he rebounded with the Daniel Bryan feud. And I think the one match he actually was very good in the ring with was the strap match he had with Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble. I thought that was really great because they knocked the hell out of each other. And I don't remember who won the match because that feels like 10 years ago, honestly. But after that, I mean, like the Firefight Funhouse match was fun, but I feel like he's back to being ice cold Fiend. Like he's just another guy. He's back to being he's just Bray again. And then like the different shades of gray with him. I think for the general fan, like people are like, I don't get it, and I think the I don't get it in an environment we're in right now, where people just want pure entertainment. They're just going to throw their hands up and be like, I don't care about this character. So I think he needs the belt. I think he needs that title, and that's why I was thinking like a Roman would come in because that's the next big babyface he could work with and fight. Mm-hmm. Will that happen just due to the world? I don't know, but I think the Fiend needs this. I'm dreading this match to watch it because like these guys don't gel together very well for me as a match. Braun is that title is 3 years too late. He was hot 3 years ago when he was like, I'm going to pick up the arena and knock it on its side. He was great, Even the grappling hook, as ridiculous as the grappling hook thing was, it still was a spectacle. That's what he was. And they just never pulled the trigger on it because they wanted to keep it on Brock. They wanted to do Brock and Roman. I mean, Braun as its champion has been just like paint drying for me. It's been boring. Him picking up Alexa Bliss and going to toss her into the crowd, that's a heel thing. That you're not the babyface there. Mm-hmm. You're the heel there. This isn't the Attitude Era, which I didn't agree with in the Attitude Era, by the way. But when you're going to do that to a woman, you're going to pick her out or throw her, and everyone's like, yay. I mean, no, that shouldn't have happened back then, but it did. And you're doing it now. You're a bad guy. So you've blurred the lines on who's good and bad. It's like you shouldn't be doing this. I get it, Braun Strowman's a killer. I get he's a monster. But again, a monster can be a good guy. We've seen Godzilla be a good guy. We could do it here. So it's like, this match just sucks. I just wanted this feud to be done. Let's move on because I think both these guys can do interesting things with other people. I just thought this is a good in theory feud because you have history with these guys, but the execution just wasn't there. This happens in wrestling. We've seen it a million times where it's just like, oh, this will obviously work. And then when they get together, like, well, it didn't work. Let's move on to something else. And we haven't moved on to anything else. I think SummerSlam is where they got to cut it and they got to move on. And let's not have these guys fight again. And I think they also need to simplify the Fiend to what made him really work, and that's a really scary character, and not this, I'm going to open my third eye and go into the ether after 6 mushrooms, Bray Wyatt shit, because, like, your everyday... Listen, I'll get it, but the everyday person is going to be like, okay, don't get it. So you need to make him more marketable by going back to the core principles of the Fiend, in my opinion.
Yeah. Bill again telling us how he really feels today, but I will say this, as we say here, a lot of times in this crazy circus that is business, less is certainly more. And guys, we knocked it out of the park today. Really good analysis. This wasn't an easy one. I feel like, I'm towing the line on a lot of these picks right now. So that means hopefully we'll have a good show. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see, as people are right now probably watching the Thunderdome, I'm excited to see the crowd being back in the show. It's so important. We do what we can in this 2020 world. So I'm very happy to have that audience connection in any sort of way, and I think fans can register right now. I saw people registering for SummerSlam and the upcoming show, so that'll be cool. Maybe we'll see the Andy Smark on Raw sometimes, Bill Bodkin, Miranda, who knows? So that could be very cool. But before we get out of here, let's get a little shameless promo out of the way. Bill, tell us a little bit about a little something you work on called thepopbreak.com.
Yep, I'm the editor-in-chief of thepopbreak.com. We're going to be celebrating our 11th anniversary in September, of course. Rob and Matt both are prolific writers for the site and prolific podcasters. Glad to have them. Every day we're talking about movies, television, music, comic books, and pro wrestling. I do it all the time. Yeah, I do this every time I'm on a podcast. And we have tons of podcasts. I am the host of a podcast that drops every single Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor, called Socially Distanced. Myself and my managing editor, Al Manarino, taking our Facebook Messenger conversations into reality, talking about pop culture with people from the site and friends from around the world. Most recently, we had the lead singer of Jukebox the Ghost, Tommy Siegel. He's also an acclaimed artist. We had him on, which was super cool. And we found out what the corn sweats were the other day, which is a phenomenon that happens in Iowa. Also, I host them. Check out Let That's on Spotify. We do Pop Break TV, which is a whole channel we have on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Anchor, and the Breakcast, which is on Apple and SoundCloud. Follow us on Twitter at popbreak.com, all spelled out, /popbreak.com, all spelled out, on Facebook, at the Pop Break on Instagram. And for me personally, I will be reviewing You Cannot Kill David Arquette, the new documentary-ish film about David Arquette's return to wrestling. I'll also be doing Nail in the Coffin, the story about Vampiro. I just got the screener for that, so I'll be reviewing that as well. And then I got a couple other things. I've been reviewing Lovecraft Country on the weekly for the site, which is a super great show you should be watching. And yeah, I usually write about AEW, so you'll see that as well.
Well, what doesn't he do? The editor-in-chief, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thanks again.
That's like that and the 6 other things I got to do in real life, yeah.
I get it. Miranda, tell us a little bit about some of the podcasts you're involved with, I think also with our friend Greg DeMarco.
Yes, yeah. So I'm on 2 different podcasts on thechairshot.com. That's run by the Kingpin himself, Mr. Greg DeMarco. I'm on the Greg DeMarco Show. That is out every Wednesday. It's myself, where we share our rants and ramblings on the world of professional wrestling. We cover everything from AEW, WWE, past, present, and even future, and everything in between. I'm also the host of my own podcast, the Hashtag Miranda Show, that is co-hosted by Greg. That's a little bit more random. My random rants and ramblings on, the world of professional wrestling. Recently, I've been talking a lot about AEW and their women's division, what's been happening on Raw and Underground, Retribution. So that's kind of where I've been throwing my 2 cents out there. And then I have a few other side projects. I do a weekly Impact review for Big Gold Belt Media with Najir Chambers. Each week, him and I talk about what's happening this week on Impact. This past week, we've reviewed Emergence Night 1. So that comes out on Tuesday evenings. And then on Fridays, I am part of a trio of co-hosts for the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, where we review everything happening in the world of Lucha Libre. We talk about the big promotions in Mexico and, of course, luchador-related events in WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, MLW. This week, Bill, you may appreciate this, we have interview with AAA superstar Mr. Iguana.
I know
So we
him.
had
Yep.
yes, a very fun guy, very awesome. We get to interview him and talk with him about his career being in AAA. He's wrestled in the United States as well.
Yep.
His pet iguana, La Yesca, that he carries everywhere. La Yesca is actually being more popular than he is. So who knew you could be overshadowed by a puppet iguana? But he does it very well. So you can go to luchacentral.com to view and to listen to that podcast.
Nice.
Awesome. Miranda, what don't you do? And I'll say this, also a little bit of ring announcing we saw for Kickstart My Heart. Don't forget that as well.
Yeah, I'm a ring announcer out here in Arizona, and any other promotions that are happy to have me. Been ring announcing for 3 years, backstage interviewer. So if anyone happens to be owning a promotion and is looking for a solid ring announcer, hit me up at the hashtag Miranda on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome job and hell of a debut, Miranda. Really great. I hope to have you back someday. Really fantastic job. And Matt, man, tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, find some of your pop break stuff, and more importantly, some of those delicious meats that you cook.
Yeah, when I'm not doing an 11-hour brisket or contributing with wrestling and television and sundry miscellaneous for Pop Break, poking my head in on Pop Culture Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at @antismark, where I bother Alexander Hammerstone for workout tips. And
you really do. Didn't Baron Corbin blow you up?
And I tag Rob in anything that involves Charlie Caruso.
Which, by the way, like this whole podcast, every time I make a point, I just see like Charlie like giving me side eye for the whole time. I'm like, listen, Charlie, I know you work there.
Is she like a guardian angel just looking down on you? I feel like that's the essence
Rob,
of
yes.
that.
It's funny that you chose those words, Miranda, because like when we moved in here, there was some like weird voodoo bear like thing hanging off the lights or whatever. So I cut it down. I said like a little prayer, like make sure I was good or whatever. And then I was like, there was this weird voodoo thing, so I needed an angel in here. So we took care of that. So
when you say voodoo bear, was it just a Grateful Dead bear?
That's what I was in.
Was that what you were doing? No, it wasn't that. But now I get it. Now I totally get what you were doing. Okay. It wasn't, no, but it was like some weird like string, like voodoo bear thing. But anyway.
Still got it?
No, I got it.
He buried it in the backyard. It's going to rise on the third day.
But we're send me a picture. What to do?
Yeah, well, we have Charlie instead now, and I'm okay with it. Hashtag journal.
Matt, didn't Baron Corbin blow you up about one of your meats that you were cooking?
Yes, he sent me the like about my ribs. My ribs were a little on the tender side for the purist, but he hit the like button, so there we go. And he is the man. If you like or don't like Baron Corbin as a wrestler,
his meat game is huge, and I'm talking about food, not anything else.
He's got a job on the cooking channel when this is all done, because he's an ace.
Yeah,
100%.
And when the Andy Smart gets the like, that says something about his cooking right there. So maybe we'll get some brisket soon. I'm just saying.
Maybe.
All right, we'll call it a day there, guys. Thank you all so much for joining me during this crazy time in 2020. Everyone, enjoy SummerSlam as we always say here on the BCP. Stay safe, stay positive, take care of each other. We're out. Peace.